Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. All right, let's talk about The Last Jedi. Sorry, I just need to get this off my chest. I needed to vent. My cat's not paying attention to me right now. Normally I vent to her. So you guys are up. So let's talk about this headline that was on, or that is on MovieWeb.com right now. And the headline reads, Rian Johnson defends character deaths in The Last Jedi. And this is what the first paragraph says. The Last Jedi director Rian Johnson has responded to the complaints about the high body count in his Star Wars movie. His tweet was in response to a transcript from the production of the original Star Wars trilogy, where George Lucas revealed that he did not want to kill off any characters. Okay. Moving on to what Rian Johnson said, and this is what he said, and I quote, according to MovieWeb.com, "For me, TLJ 100% distills what the spirit and heart of SW has been in my life. But yes, it is personal. It's a certain POV, and it has to be. Originals were personal for GL, George Lucas. That's why they're alive. SW films will truly betray the heart and spirit of the originals if they lose that and become soulless, clean homages. But being alive means being messy, and it means every film won't line up exactly with what every fan is expecting or wants. I'm sorry TLJ didn't line up with your own certain POV. Really, honestly, I am. MTFBWY. May the force be with you." Okay. This is what I have to say to Rian Johnson. I actually agree with everything he said here in principle. I actually agree with it. Like, I totally understand what he's trying to say. Yeah. The problem I have with this, Rian, is that you were the writer and director on one movie, the second act in a 3-act play. This is not the time nor place to be experimenting with your own personal lovey-dovey feelings of Star Wars. Okay, that's not what you do. All right, I mean, I think it's pretty well known that J.J. Abrams had some notes for Rian, and he just took them and threw them out. Like, you don't do that. Regardless of what you thought of The Force Awakens, I really liked it. But regardless of what you thought of it, JJ set the foundation. Okay, he set the foundation. He set the plan, right? There was a lot of good, juicy stuff in there that anybody could have taken and been like, okay, what are we going to do with this? Not do an Empire Strikes Back rehash, but take it and kind of go, okay, what are we going to... This is not the time nor place to go, I don't give a fuck what you've done. I don't give a shit what you've done. I have my own personal feelings on what I love about the movie or what I want to see, so you can't do that. You're creating the second act in a 3-act play. There has to be some ebb and flow in terms of continuity of the overall story arc. There's a literary principle, there's a dramatic principle called Chekhov's gun. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it essentially means that if you introduce a gun in the first act, you have to be prepared to fire it in the second act. What they're essentially saying is that if you introduce certain plot points or certain, allude to certain things, you can't just take those things and throw them out in the second act because you are setting an expectation. Now look, I've done videos on this where, I've said that for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, the vast majority of the issues that I had with TLJ was not that, I'm a 40-year-old fanboy who didn't have his expectations met. There's some serious ass problems in terms of story structure, character motivations, and what a natural progression for these characters would be in the second act of a 3-act play. 100%. It's like you watching a television show and in the third season, the characters start doing weird shit, or the plot starts going like this, and it's a completely different show, and you're like this. You don't do that, right? There has to be some continuity. There has to be some flow. That doesn't mean you don't take risks, but you take risks within the confines of the foundation that's been set because you're telling a 3-act play. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like the second act of a 3-act play, is always the darkest for our protagonists. ends, right? It doesn't end on a positive note. It's supposed to end on a darker note, and the redemption is in the third act. Now, that doesn't mean you copy Empire and Return of the Jedi. There's a plethora of ways that you can construct that. Just because the second act has to be darker, doesn't mean that, it's just going to be Empire. No, not at all. There's many different ways you can construct it. But that's what a 3-act play is. You don't just suddenly take it and go, well, I don't give a shit about any of this because I have my own personal feelings on Star Wars. That's not what you do. You can create a different movie. You can take some risks and you can make it different. Wow, I wasn't expecting that within the confines of what was already laid out. And that's the problem. Now, look, I'm not one of those fans that got caught up in the EU and the books and the comics. I know you're going to comment below and be like, Dave, it's amazing. You should really check it. I'm sure it is, okay? But I'm trying to give some perspective that I'm not coming at it from a fanboy, a 40-year-old fanboy who wanted to see Luke do something he did in some book in 1989. It has nothing to do with that. I actually didn't mind that Luke was a hermit at the beginning of the movie. I didn't mind that. I actually thought that was, I thought that was cool. For me, this is the problem to Rian Johnson's quote unquote risks in The Last Jedi. They don't feel organic. And the reason why they don't feel organic is because you are not being true to what was set before. Again, that doesn't mean you have to copy Empire, and that doesn't mean you cannot take risks. But when you throw the baby out with the bathwater, it doesn't feel organic, it feels forced, and it feels like you're just being avant-garde for the sake of being avant-garde. And it comes off as sloppy and shitty and really fucking stupid. And now we find out, 6 months after the release of the movie, well, it's my own personal POV. You can't do that, Ryan. You can't do that. If you want to do that, do it with your own Star Wars trilogy, because you're setting the foundation, you're setting the expectations, you're setting the groundwork. That's where you do it. And that doesn't mean that you don't bring your own ideas, or you don't bring your own vision, or you don't, as I said, take some risks. But because you're the second man in, you're doing the second part of the story, there are rules and walls within this sandbox. You have to play within this sandbox. You don't just say, well, I don't like any of the Tonka trucks you have here, so I'm just going to throw them. You can't do that, okay? Because I'm writing a story that has to do with Tonka trucks. All right. So you have to work with it. If you want to do your own fucking thing with Fisher Price trucks, okay, but then go do it over there. I've laid the groundwork for this. You got to play within here. You can have some fun with it. You can take some risks. You can make it your own, but you can't just take everything I've created here, smash all the walls down, throw out the Tonka trucks, and create a movie that doesn't match up, that doesn't fit like a puzzle piece to the movie that came before it. You can't do that. This is the wrong movie to be experimenting and doing your own personal feelings of a Star Wars movie. Again, doesn't mean you can't bring some of that with you, but you have walls that you have to play within only because you're the second one in. It's the way JJ could have done in theory whatever he wanted because he's creating the foundation, right? But whoever the second person was, whether it was Rian Johnson, Spielberg, Christopher Nolan, whoever did episode 8 would have had to have played within those walls. Look, there's no doubt that Kathleen Kennedy turned to Rian Johnson and said, do whatever the hell you want, which probably will end up being the biggest mistake of her professional career, especially if the rumors about her being fired from Lucasfilm or, tactfully resigning or, going on to different things. I doubt it will be a public thing that she was fired. If that comes to be, then there's no doubt you could probably look at The Last Jedi because of its divisiveness as the catalyst. You can certainly point to Solo, but Solo's a good movie. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Solo. It's not a great movie, but it's fine. It's average, it's safe, it's fine. But certainly I think The Last Jedi, even though it was hugely financially successful, I think you could look at as the catalyst for her potential removal from that position. That being said, what Rian Johnson, again, has essentially done here is, it's like if you're playing a game of improv and, I say something like, it was a beautiful sunny day with a crystal clear blue sky. And I was sitting on a park bench, enjoying my lunch. And then I turned to you for you to take over the story. And you naturally, to take over, you would say something like, when all of a sudden this young man approached me and sat down beside me. And he said, "Don't you think it's a beautiful day today?" And I say, "Yeah, it is." That's how you sort of, build something organic, right? What Rian Johnson did was he took my beginning of the story about how it's a beautiful sunny day and I'm, on a park bench having my lunch and said, no, it's not a sunny day. It's a miserable day. And you're not on a park bench. You're actually on a football field playing football. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you've killed the scene. You've just literally destroyed the scene. There's no continuity. There's no flow. So when people watch your part of the story, they're like, I thought we were on a park bench and it was sunny. Like they don't get it. You've destroyed the scene. If you want to do that, if you want to have a football game on a dark day with rain, you can do that, Ryan, but not in this story because you're coming in second to continue a story. Okay, listen, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. This video has already gone on much longer than I wanted it to. And I'll give you the example. For those of you who are not new to my channel, you've heard me talk about this example before in my Last Jedi videos. But for those of you who are new, this might be the first time you're hearing this. I'll give you the example that I use with Rey in terms of poor, natural, organic writing in terms of character development. Now, there's a lot of issues I had with Leia and Luke and Poe and Finn. 100%. Rose as well, absolutely. But that would extend this video by like 5 more hours. But I like to use the example I often talk about with Rey because it's a really good example. The character of Rey by the end of The Last Jedi should have absolutely, unequivocally gone with Kylo Ren. I don't mean turn to the dark side. I just mean by the end of the movie should have ended with, oh my God, what's going to happen now? Right? Finn and Poe are looking at each other like, holy shit, Rey is gone. We've got to get her back, right? And Poe and Finn sort of, there's that sort of that expectation that maybe they're going to team up in the next film, right? And try to get her back. The reason why she should have gone with Kylo Ren is because when we look at her character development, from The Force Awakens over into The Last Jedi, and we look at what she's dealing with, okay? She doesn't know who her parents are, okay? She doesn't know where her place is in the universe. She's struggling to figure out where she belongs, okay? She feels that there's something inside her. She feels that she has this bigger, larger purpose, but she doesn't know what that exactly is, okay? So she's turning to Luke Skywalker, arguably the greatest, most powerful Jedi that has ever lived, okay? She's looking to him for those answers, right? And he turns out to be what? A complete bust, a complete dick, a complete asshole, okay? And that affects her. That should affect her on a psychological, emotional level, okay? Then she finds out from Kylo Ren that her parents are nobodies, okay? Something that maybe she's always feared, that her parents are, now whether Kylo Ren is telling the truth or not, who knows, okay? Maybe that'll be retconned in episode 9, but as of right now, we're taking it as truth. She finds out that her parents are nobodies and they sold her for junk money, essentially saying that they believe that her daughter was a piece of shit, was a piece of trash, okay? That should affect her on a psychological, emotional level, all right? And the only person that appears to give a shit about her, now I know Finn gives a shit about her, I'm talking about on a bigger picture sort of, what does it all mean? Where's my place in all this perspective? Something that she's desperately trying to figure out is this guy named Kylo Ren. There's clearly some sort of connection they have. Now, whether it's romantic or whether it's just friendly, let's put that aside. There's clearly a connection that they have. There's clearly some sort of connection that is building in The Last Jedi. Therefore, at that moment, after, defeating the Praetorian Guards, despite the reason she went there in the first place, there should have been doubt in her mind now. She wasn't expecting Kylo Ren to save her life from Snoke, but he did. And it's kind of like, oh, wait a minute. The reason you came here was to get Kylo to come with you, right? But things are changing now. The more doubt is going into your mind, especially after he says to you, your parents are nobodies, and you've always known this. Your place in this universe is with me. It's with me, and you know this. He's getting inside her psychologically. He's affecting her on a psychological psychological level. There should have been that doubt. She should have gone with him. But what does she do? Ben, come on, don't do this. What are you doing? Why are you writing it this way? You're going to redeem her in episode 9. Rey should have absolutely been with Kylo Ren and Hux on Kylo Ren's ship, looking down at Luke Skywalker. If you wanted to play, I still don't think Luke should have been just a Force projection, but okay, hypothetically, let's say the rest of the movie played out the way that it did. Well, Rey should have been on that ship. And maybe the only reason why Luke doesn't destroy that ship, because we know he could, he's powerful enough to do it, is because he doesn't want to destroy Rey in the process. He sacrifices Ren and Hux and that ship because he doesn't want to destroy Rey, because he knows that Rey is the future. But when the movie ends, Hux and Kylo Ren and Rey fly off into the stratosphere, and it's like, oh my God, right? And there's this uncertainty, there's this darkness, and Poe and Finn are like, what the fuck, right? What are we gonna do? Dude, it's up to us, And Poe, looks at Finn as like, I need you. I need you now by my side, buddy. We got to take this to the next level now, right? And when episode 9 begins, it's like 5 years later, and we're seeing, again, Rey never fully turns to the dark side necessarily, but she's on that path, and we see that struggle with her character, knowing that, something doesn't feel right here, right? We see that component of Rey's character makes it deeper and richer and more fulfilled, and we saw none of that in The Last Jedi. There was no conflict whatsoever. Even Luke Skywalker had some conflict, right? There was none of that. And, I use that as the perfect example of, look at what this character is dealing with. Let's be true to the organic progression of this character. And then, of course, you can take what I just said here with Rey and apply it to Luke, and apply it to Finn, and apply it to Poe, and apply it to Leia. And it's like, holy shit, there are fundamental story problems and character issues with this film in accordance to the foundation that was set. And you can bet your ass that most of the actors probably feel the same way. I mean, look at Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill has been in this perpetual state of putting his foot in his goddamn mouth ever since the movie was released. Every, month or so, he's saying something, well, I didn't really agree with that. I didn't, I was like Jake Skywalker, not Luke Skywalker. And then he's got to do some sort of damage control where he's like, oh, but, I saw the movie and I agree with it. And then you're like, okay, fine. And then, 3 weeks goes by and there he is again, saying something, He's trying to inconspicuously tell you that he thinks it's fucking shit. That he thinks what the movie did and what Rian did is shit. That's what he's trying to tell you, regardless of what he says after the fact. Somebody who genuinely, organically, actually has come to terms with what he says. Now, we all know that when he first read the script, he fundamentally disagreed with everything, but now he's trying to pass it off like, but now I've come around and I actually really love the movie. No, you don't, Mark. No, you don't, because if you did, you'd stop putting your foot in your mouth every chance you got about how much you hated it in the beginning. You wouldn't be on this crusade to sort of get people to read between the lines, try to be inconspicuous, without pissing off Disney about how much you really actually don't like what they've done with Luke. And look at Daisy Ridley. Daisy Ridley's the same way. When Daisy Ridley found out that J.J. Abrams was coming back to do episode 9, she was crying. She cried. Look at this interview. I showed this months ago. Look at her response when the guy here says, do you like it?
Congrats on The Last Jedi.
Thank
really
you.
Enjoyed it.
Thank
you happy
you.
with it?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Listen, when you actually like something, I mean genuinely like something, you don't hum and haw for 3 seconds. No, she doesn't. She doesn't like it. And then she caught herself like, oops, hang on a sec. I'm contractually obligated here to say yes. So, sure, yeah, let's go with that. You bet your ass her publicist or her agent or, Lucasfilm was all over her for that. If they saw this, maybe they didn't see it. I'm not sure. But 100%. Actors know when they read scripts, there's this expectation that we're continuing something already built. So there's this foundation that's set. Why are you taking it over here? Like, I'm totally for doing something, crazy or, kind of like, risky. Sure. But why are we now pretending like this is a different, completely different story? Like, what are we doing here? You've got to go with the flow. Whether you agree with it or not, you've got to go with it, because if you don't, you will have chaos and you will have exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. Anyways, folks, that's all I got to say. I could go on and on and on about this and really get deep, but I just don't have time right now, and I'm getting fucking frustrated. Anyways, my name's Dave McRae. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you can at facebook.com/manythingsdavemcrae. The link is in the description. That's where I tend to post in the meantime and in between time when I'm not posting here. So follow me there. Also, if you want to help support the channel each and every month via Patreon, the link is in the description as well. So, yeah, I got to get out of here before I start busting down walls. I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.